So the next part is the memory. These are little modules that you get to buffer between your hard drive and your processor. Basically, the way it works is the operating system directs the processor on how to function. It's like you have a direction for your household. You have someone who's in charge of making sure your household gets from point A to point B, whether it's finances or whatnot. No, I don't like that example. I'm sure some of you might have a better example than me, and if you do, please comment below. I'd be more than happy to hear them. This whole setup is like a firehouse setup. The processor is like the fire chief. They're in charge of making sure everything is running smoothly and in order to what the operation guide tells them. The operation guide is like the operating system, which is on the hard drive. The processor and motherboard have a basic function to when they start booting up, it's hard-coded into it that it has to do certain steps when it starts up. So the fire chief has to make sure that the firehouse runs a certain way. Then it guides everything to do what it needs to do. The firemen are like the memory. They hold and relay tasks and do what they need to do to continue running the firehouse. The memory gets chunks of information from the hard drive so that it's closer and quicker to communicate with the processor. The processor tells the memory what chunks it needs to get. Its job is to acquire it. The more memory you have in your computer, the more chunks that it's able to get. You don't really need more memory unless you're doing stuff like high-end graphics gaming or high-end graphics editing or something where you need large groups of data. The more memory you have, the more it could store it on the memory, and the faster the processor can get to the chunks of data to process it. And then the hard drive is like society for the firehouse. It holds all the information and it filters it to the fire chief, and the fire chief filters it to the various groups or various portions of the firehouse to keep it running smoothly. The processor works the same way. It divvies out what needs to be done based on what the operating system and hard-coded instructions tell it to do. The memory is there to support the processor. The hard drive is there to hold all the information that you find is pertinent. And the graphics card, it splits off to take an extra portion just for the graphics information on the hard drive. It's a way to split your tasks between the two different types of processes so that you would be able to get more done. So you have various types of hard drives as well. You have hard drives that are solid states. You have hard drives that are spinning disk drives. They're hard disk drives. The difference between them is the solid states are much faster, but right now in the phase of technology that we have, you can get much larger storage space on a spinning disk drive for a lot cheaper. A 4 terabyte drive costs about $150 or less for a spinning disk drive. For a solid state drive, a 1 terabyte drive costs maybe $300. Although it would be a lot faster and better for media storage and whatnot, it's expensive. Another difference between them is the physical size. A solid state drive is a 2.5 inch drive, whereas a hard disk drive is a 3.5 inch drive. This is important information to know based on the kind of case that you get to how it's going to fit in there. Some cases today actually come with adapters to go down to the 2.5 inch size from the 3.5 inch bay, and some cases even come with 2.5 inch bays, so you don't even have to get any kind of adapter. Those are important information to have when you're trying to find your case. The case is what holds everything together. You have a variety of different things you can do with your cases, and you can go all kinds of custom, or you could just get a standard base case. Depending on what you're trying to do with it might depend what size you get as well. The kind of case you get will determine what kind of motherboard you get. If you get what's called a micro ATX case, you'll have to get a micro ATX motherboard, and then all the components that go with it, you have to make sure it fits. Now, if you're just trying to find a computer that doesn't take up a whole lot of space and that you could do homework on or surf the internet, check your email, that kind of thing, a micro ATX is probably the best thing for you. Make sure you have integrated memory in there, that it fits the right size, you have at least 8 gigs of memory so you can just keep going and doing what needs to be done, and then you can put it anywhere. It does cost a lot less too, but it doesn't allow for as much expansion. You won't be able to do the graphics card expansions, for example. You would need something like a mid case or a full case. And yes, those do come with different sizes, so you want to be careful of that as well. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like the videos and want to see more of it. YouTube and Patreon are also linked below, as well as our social media and our websites. Send any questions you may have to contact@slatecomp.com, and we'll be happy to review them and get back with you. Thank you, and join us again. We'll have some fun.